Okay guys, let's talk about the least common denominator, okay, of some fractions. So the least common denominator is the smallest whole number that each denominator will divide into evenly. So in other words, this is the smallest whole number that is a multiple of each denominator. For example, if you have two denominators that are 4 and 6, their least common denominator would be 12, because 12 is the smallest multiple of both 4 and 6, okay? So, finding the least common denominator, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get it in find the prime factorization of each denominator. So all that means is we're going to take each denominator and we're going to get it in its prime factored form. Okay. Then we find the common factors of the denominators, multiply those common factors by the remaining factors of the denominator. So let's look at 4 and 6. So prime factored form of 4, it's hard to say, is 2 times 2, right? Prime factored form of 6 is going to be 2 times 3. So I'm just going to make one big equal sign and we're going to go from here. So the way I like to think about it is if they have a number that they share, I circle it because I'm going to only write that number down one time. Now if they have numbers that they don't share, we're going to write each of these numbers down. Okay, so they share a 2. So I'm only going to write that number down once. But then they have a 2 and a 3 that are not in common. So we're going to write each one of those down. Okay, so that's going to be our answer. Well, 2 times 2 is 4 times 3 is 12. And that's what they said it would be. And it is. Okay, so that's how I use the prime factored form. And then I come up with the least common denominator. That's the easiest way for me to do it. Okay. So suppose you need to find the least common denominator of 3/8 and 7/10. Well, we don't care about the top, we just look at the bottom, right? So again, that's what they did here. It's easier for me if I write them on top of each other, so I could do this like what they have in common thing, but they wrote it beside each other. So they have 8 equals 2 times 2 times 2, and 10 equals 2 times 5. Well, we can see that both of these have a 2 in common, so we could write this as, well, that one 2 that's in common. This has 2 more 2's, and this one has a 5. Well, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, and 8 times 5 is 40, and that is the least common denominator. Okay, I think this is the easiest way, but they also have a different way that they tell you, so we'll look at it. There is another approach that can be used, and you just start listing multiples of each denominator until you find one that they have in common. Okay, so again, here's 8 and 10. We just list the multiples of 8. Well, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, blah, 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 64, so on. And then multiples of 10 were 10, 20, 30, 40. That's easier, right? We know those pretty well. And they have 40 in common, so you can stop there. So some numbers, this would be easier, probably. But some numbers it wouldn't be. So just whichever one's easier for you. The least common denominator would be the first number that appeared in both lists. So that would be our 40, right? Okay, let's do some. So the least common denominator of 12 and 20, they did it down here, right? So 12 is 2 times 3. 20 is 2 times 5. Well, we see this 2 they have in common, and this 2 they have in common. So each of these I'm just going to write down once. They have a 3 in common and a 5 in common. So when you write these, you won't write them, you multiply them now. So this is going to be 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 5, 60. So there you go. I think I'll do the exercise, the first one with you guys. That way I'm not just turning you guys loose real fast. How's that sound? Different color. So we have 15 and 35. Well, 15 we know is 3 times 5, right? And 35, well, we know is 7 times 5. Well, we share a 5 in common, so we'll write him over here, times 3 times 7. And when you multiply those out, this is why you have calculators, so you don't have to do this in your head, but it's 105. Okay? Right on. I'll leave the rest of them for you guys to do, okay? Alright, well, have a great day.